Welcome. What a day it has been. It's been a day of resilience. It's been a day of strength. It's been a day of responses by Indian investors to attempts to destabilize this market. You're probably looking at the Nifty about 40 points up and wondering what the big deal is. Well, this is the Nifty in the green after a weekend of attempts to completely raise questions on the credibility of the Indian capital markets. We're talking about the Hindenburg hit job, which was completely punctured. It's clearly been a bit of a flop show. As you can see, all key indices in the green, Bank Nifty leading the charge. Let me just pull up the advanced decline ratio to give you a sense of what kind of day it has been before we get to the heat map, etc. So we started off with a bit of weakness. Remember, the short seller has put out a fresh report in which they have put allegations, or they have targeted the SEBI chairperson Madhvi Puri Buch and her husband for investments they made in 2015, 2 years before she took on any kind of role in SEBI. She started as whole-time director in 2017. So the market started with a little bit of weakness. You've had quite a volatile day, but range-bound here onwards, afternoon, mid-morning onwards. Really, anyone trying to make good of their shorts in the market would have been caught in a bit of a panic, because that's really not the kind of view that most Indian investors have had. So advanced declaration, not too much of a gap, but advance is definitely on top right now. Let's pull up the heat map for you just to give you a sense of what are the stocks that are moving today. And apart from the whole Hindenburg saga, frankly, it's been a kind of range-bound day, very news-driven, very results-driven. We're on the last bit of the result season for quarter one, the fag end, so to speak. So that has been the big story. I would say on the green and on the buy side, you have the financials and auto. Banks and auto really ruling the roost. Axis Bank doing well, Shriram Finance. I would assume an HDFC Bank also in top row, that's right. Some amount of enthusiasm in a Hero Moto. Tech also okay, Infosys doing okay, Cipla doing fairly well, but no runaway kind of standout stories in that sense, at least for the Nifty 50. More action on the broader markets, and Agam will join in a bit to tell you a bit about that. Let me just go back to the heat map for a second and tell you what's happening on the sell side before we get to the broader market story. So here in NTPC Britannia, feeling a bit of heat. Look at the Adani Group stocks, and the Adani Group stocks started off the day very, very weak. A recovery in those numbers as well, and in those stock prices as well. So consumption, I would say, is languishing at the bottom of the barrel. Britannia, Nestle, some of those stories over there. But overall, even if I pull up the sectoral indices, you will see that a market which has seen this as business as usual, which is how it should be. Nifty Realty doing fairly okay. Banks and definitely private banks is dominating over there. Consumer durables are fine. The PSU pack is a little weak today. So is your public sector companies. Your Nifty CPSE is not doing too well. But let me go across to Agam for what's happening in the broader markets. And Agam, it's all about the results, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it is about the results. There's no doubt about that. And in fact, the broader markets are marginally outperforming the benchmarks at the moment. So you have the mid-cap index, which is up by around, 0.3%. The small-cap index is up by just as much. And a lot of this, while on account of earnings has come through, you're also seeing plenty of other movers on account of momentum. So let me take a handful of names there. So you have Inox Wind. We spoke to the management today, sounding very upbeat, and we have an up move around nearly 17% there. RVNL, well, so the results were not great. The earnings came in last week, but RVNL now is starting to see a little bit of a reversal after a handful of days of weakness, and now we're looking at buying coming there. Voltas, of course, once again, looking at earnings, reacting to it, very, very strong set of numbers coming in. Remember, Voltas has been relatively inconsistent when it comes to its bottom line, but it does seem like, and as per the management's admission, that perhaps the worst is behind them, and that possibly could be one of the reasons why we are looking at the strength in Voltas as well. Jubilant Foodworks is up around 8.5%, also reacting to earnings. Titagarh Rail, Amara Raja Batteries, and Glenmark Pharma, all of them advancing by as much as 7 to 8%. And, if you take a look at some of the gainers, we do have substantial weakness in something like a Sun TV. That's down around 10%. Balakrishna Industries is a very curious one because we actually saw a lot of strength on an intraday basis for Balakrishna Industries. Eventually, it gave away all the green and it is now down by as much as 7.3%. So this is something that I reckon that a lot of traders will perhaps want to keep in mind. Bharat Dynamics, of course, reacting to earnings. And I keep making this point about defense companies that their earnings tend to be relatively lumpy. Bharat Dynamics, I reckon, is a victim of the lumpiness in recognition of these revenues because a lot of these orders, happen over a period of time based on the products and the kind of equipment that they've come through. Well, that will determine the kind of revenue. This time around for Bharat Dynamics, you're looking at a drop in revenue. And that's also the reason why on a quarter-on-quarter basis, you're seeing a slide as far as its profitability is concerned. And besides that, you have KFin Technologies. Remember, KFin Technologies had advanced by as much as 16% last Friday, and we're looking at a little bit of profit taking at the moment. So all in all, I would largely say that yes, most of these moves, most of these sharper moves, Tamanna, today are on account of earnings.
I just want to add one more to those Subros came in while Agam was giving you that list of earnings that have done well. And since we've talked about Voltas in the same space, AC Systems, look at that spike up, nearly 13% up. Here's why. EBITDA is up 66%, gone from a 47 crore rupee number to a 78 crore rupee number. This is year on year. Margins have come in from 6.8% to 9.6%, so good jump there. Net profit has gone from a 14 crore number to a 35 crore number, and revenues are also up. So the top line's done well, the bottom line's done well. Supros also doing well at this point. A few other stocks, and we'll get in some detail on Honasa as well. So Honasa started off well, but when the detailing was clear about what their quarter looked like, that stock has lost most of its gain. Gross margins have slipped by about 90 basis points. That's some of the problem. The revamping of distribution for offline sales has been a bit of an issue. And I just want to talk for a second about Ola Electric. Second trading day for the new company on the block and another 20% up circuit. I mean, Agam, I just find the story astonishing because this IPO was written off from the get-go.
Yeah.
The grey market price before the listing showed a complete lack of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
This company listed just flat at 76 odd. It's at 109 right now. Whoever wants to buy it doesn't even get a chance to buy it.
Yeah.
So I thought Ola Electric is another interesting story to look at this afternoon.
Yeah, so a lot has been said about the narrative around Ola Electric and the kind of markets they are in terms of the plans that they want to take up with respect to battery storage and solutions, not just mobility, but several other segments. Of course, all the bikes that they have come up with so far, while there has been increased traction and they're looking at an increase in volumes, there are still certain question marks with the possibility of the completeness of these bikes, and we've seen an increase in volumes, but again, at the moment, I reckon that a lot of these investors are buying into not just the bike business, but also the battery storage business that could potentially hold a lot of potential.
They're saying early 2025 by the time that's on, and you will actually hear and see more from them on August 15th.
Right.
Because they're going to unveil that bike, possibly they have an unveiling, and we will get a closer idea. But nevertheless, let's talk about what is the strategy in the markets today. Himen Kapadia of KR Choksi Securities joins us today. Vijay Chopra of Enoch Ventures also joins us. Welcome to both of you. Thank you for speaking with us on what is turning out to be, I think, not a very exciting Monday for all the right reasons. We could have otherwise been seeing a very, very tough day in the markets, and that's not what has happened. Himen, let me come to you first on how you see the charts developing. 24,200 seems to be a tough point for the Nifty, but you think we're over that bump?
A very good afternoon to you, Tamanna. Thank you for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure. Yes, I think 24,200 in the near term provides the requisite cushion for a downside. I mean, if you see the call and put OI, it's big, between 24,000, 25,000. That's a big range. But yes, in the near term, if 24,200 doesn't break, I think that's a good sign. There are two gaps, Tamanna. The first gap we made multiple. I'm saying second attempt at trying to cover it up, not been successful. The first one is still completely open. So two things. One, till the gaps, we start with the first gap, doesn't get covered up. Markets are not going anywhere. Secondly, this gap is also going to provide resistance. So we're going to remain range bound, maybe between 23.9 and 24.600, the Tamanna, without any trending bias. On last Friday also, if you see the Nifty, Bank Nifty, they lost almost 5% OI. So I think there's a lack of activity in the futures. People are sort of taking a back seat till there is a more clear view on how things are happening. Obviously, because of various events and news, the VIX continues above 15. We had gone to 29.30, but we are back to 15. Below 14 and 13, I think that should provide some relief to bulls. So I would say markets are going nowhere, but Bank Nifty oversold, downside limited. Axis Bank has probably bottomed out on the short term. HDFC Bank making all the right noises. So the underperformance of the Bank Nifty might just be going past us.
Okay, so even though we have seen very clearly that attempt to short the market with this attack has not really worked, some concern there, as Hemen Kapadia is saying, or at least people are being careful for now. Hemen, what are your stock calls then on a day like this?
Well, frankly speaking, it's better to be stock specific. I don't think anything has changed, and the market has probably shrugged off whatever has happened. So firstly, a buy call on Mahindra and Mahindra Financial Services, 1 year consolidation correction, downside limited. We are setting the stage for a breakout about 305. I believe there's the onset of an intermediate uptrend, which would probably last for maybe 4-5 months more. So buy at 298, stop loss 283, target 328 on Mahindra and Mahindra Financial. Secondly, is the buy call on Chambal Fertilizer, Tamanna. We spent 6.5 weeks consolidating. Now we're on the cusp of breaking out. The oscillators have given a crossover buy. It's about the 55-day exponential moving average. Technically, it's ticking 4 or 5 boxes, which would warrant a technical buy at this stage in time, Tamanna. Buy Chambal at 530, stop loss 510, target 570.
All right, Hemen, stay with us. We also get in Vijay Chopra of Enoch Ventures joining us on the show. Afternoon, Vijay. Vijay, we just have about 3 to 4 more days with respect to earnings coming through, and this is going to be the balance. How are you reading as far as how have you read the earnings season so far? And is there a distinction between large caps and mid caps at this point in time after the kind of choppiness that we've seen over the past one or 2 weeks? Do you think that there's still value at the moment when it comes to your broader market counters, or are they still looking expensive, especially given the fact that their earnings have not been bad and some of them have actually seen stellar earnings?
Well, it's been a mixed bag, I guess. There have been companies which have posted fantastic results. There have been companies which have posted tepid results. And there are sectors, there are pockets of excellence, which we always keep on finding out. I think that in the last 30 years, my prowess has been into finding out undervalued stories and companies who have not moved much. So I've been yelling at the top of my voice, get out from high beta, get into a low betas, fundamentally strong companies. So this has been the story in the last 3-4 months. But I think that, markets have very few reasons to go up. And I think that if at all market corrects or consolidates at these levels, I would be really happy. But as I said, there are still a lot of companies, if you insist or allow, I would name a few where I think that we are, doing research on, or I think that putting money on. So there would be always good companies at good valuations available. So it's not like that even in such markets we do not have money to deploy. But yes, get out of high beta is the call.
Name them quickly, the companies that you're looking at the moment which offer value, Vijay.
I think that the railway companies are showing some promise today. So Railtel and IRFC, I think that I love IRFC for the valuations. because it's I think an undervalued story. If you ask me about the long-term perspective of the stock, maybe it can reach up to 500 if somebody holds for a couple of years. So IRFC and RailTel are companies which I like from the railway space. From the oil and gas, I like a company called Chennai Petro, again, a government of India, government of Iran, Indian Oil invested company, presently, trading at around 900 levels. Great company to have in a portfolio, still trading at a, price to earning of around 5-6. So, one can just jump and buy Chennai Petro and keep on adding it into the portfolio. It's a portfolio stock according to me. Another wonderful government of India company which I like is Power Trading Corporation, PTC. India is a power-hungry country, and power is not going to be out of flavor, at least in the next 10 years. So PTC I like, which is trading at around 208, 207, and this stock has the potential of going up to maybe 250. And finally, I think that Geofin, which is a part of Reliance Group, trading at around 325, 326. Geofin also, I think, has corrected from the highs of almost 400. And seemingly, one can start adding Geofin at these levels for the longer haul. Until I think that this stock has all the potential to go up to 425, 450.
Okay, let's talk about our stock of the day. Is clearly Inox Wind. The stock has been seeing a huge pump up after a fantastic quarter, 18% up right now. After reporting its June quarter numbers, we spoke earlier in the day to the executive director of the company, Devansh Jain, on the order book and execution plans. Listen in.
I think execution is continuously ramping up. I think every quarter over the past 5 quarters has been better. And I think every quarter going forward will continue to become larger and larger. Having said that, Q1 and Q2 typically are lower than Q3 and Q4, given the onset of monsoons in H1. I'm not saying it's skewed to the extent of 1090, but 35-65 skew is broadly what happens. So H2 is definitely going to be much larger than H1. I think execution continues to play out well for us. We are ramping up massively across the board. 140 megawatts this quarter was almost about 90% more than the quarter of the previous financial year. And I think with respect to the 2.9 gigawatt order book which we have, I think that's something which will take care of the next 2 years. What we've guided for publicly is about 800 megawatts this year and 1200 megawatts next year, with the caveat that there's a significant upside risk to the to the numbers in the next financial year. We'll talk about more of that as we move forward over the next 1 or 2 quarters. Look, we're gunning for about 6 crores per megawatt, which in the full financial year overall we'll end up achieving. You'll have sometimes commissioning happening in 1 quarter or shifting to the next quarter, or sometimes some extra nacelles going or blades going. But broadly, the thumb rule would be 6 crores per megawatt would be our guidance in terms of top line per megawatt for this financial year.
Okay, Vijay Chopra, let's get your view on Inox Wind. The numbers look really good. In fact, their top line was a little lower than what estimates were. But having said that, on all other parameters, they've beaten estimates. They have had a completely fantastic run-up. Is it still a good long-term story at these levels? You're on mute, Vijay.
Yeah. Tamanna, I think that the stock has moved up quite a bit. And I would say that don't jump and buy here. If at all you get this stock again at maybe around 165, 170, it's a good long-term bet. Yes, the results are good. And if you talk about renewable energy, companies, especially wind, so we don't have many options apart from Suzlon and Inox Wind. So this company has done stupendously well, and I think that it's going to better off their margins from Suzlon. Suzlon also has done well in the last 1.5 2 years. But yes, I think that Inox Wind should do well in the longer run. Wait for a correction. If at all you get it around 170, it would be a great level to get into the stock.
170. Himak, how do you feel about Inox? Himen?
I think we've broken out of this 165, 190 range, but we are in a short, medium, long-term uptrend. Then I feel that I'm not going to chase a stock which has moved like this. But all-time high, Tamanna, no known resistance levels. Obviously, it's going to move like this, but there's nothing, no known impediments that I can see. 190 was a swing high posted on 1st August, Tamanna. I think that would be a source of decent support in the future. So that can be a potential entry level on our fall.
Okay. All right, we'll take a very short break at this point. But on the other side, we look at the latest coming in on the Hindenburg hit job, how it's failed. I mean, markets have completely shrugged it off. A lot of news coming in on ONGC as well. You're seeing that ONGC flash. That's an important story. The government has approved gas pricing from new wells at 20% over APM pricing. Look at that spike on ONGC. We come back, we'll break that story down and more. Stay tuned.
Okay, well, welcome back. Well, so we are actually also marking the fact that we've seen a recovery in, a lot of the portions of the market, and especially given the fact that there was weakness earlier on in the session. We started off the day in the red, and that was largely on account of allegations coming in once again from the Hindenburg camp. But while there were allegations, we also saw rebuttals and counterclaims when it comes to not just the SEBI chief, but also from the Adani Group companies. Tamanna, how are you reading into these aspects? Because we're clearly seeing the markets shirk off, whatever little weakness there was, and they're clearly not buying into everything that Hindenburg has brought forward into the latest set of allegations.
So it's important to sift the politics and the rhetoric from what the story really is, Agam.
Yeah.
And over the last 24 hours, that's exactly what we've done. So yes, you will hear a lot of sound bites today. We heard from senior BJP leader Ravi Shankar Prasad. You'll hear from others who are saying that this is a conspiracy. They're trying to attack Indian capital markets. Yes, all of that is there, may or may not be there. I'm just talking about the facts when you put everything together. So if you look at Hindenburg's allegations, the statements from Madhvi Puri Buch and Dhaval Buch, what SEBI is saying, what Blackstone is saying, and then what 361 WAM is saying. And you piece together those different parts of the story, and it becomes very clear that they have no legs to stand on. And in fact, we had that conversation today with Madhusudan Kela, of course, of MK Ventures, and listen into what he says, because he starts by talking about how he spent the entire weekend looking through all of those documents, not the documents, but all of the facts that were in the public domain and what his conclusions were.
It looks like a real attack. It is not about one individual, and it is not about one corporate house. It looks more an attack on the country, and they are trying to really malign and basically malign the image of the whole country. And your point is right. And who are they to say that you can't trust the system? I think we are one of the finest and the best regulators in the world. Both RBI and SEBI over the years have done such fantastic job. And the other point is that the allegation which you are putting, that is putting their own credibility at stake now. Because Tamanna, if you see the report very carefully, there is nothing substantial with their even alleging. I think the points are being made for the sake of it. So it looks like to me, it looks like a larger conspiracy at some different level and at a country level. It's nothing to do with an individual. As you rightly said, they are being issued show cause notice. So rather than applying to that show cause notice, now you are putting an allegation on the regulator itself.
Okay.
And that too on an individual whose image has been spanky clean over the last 30 years.
Exactly. So, there is obviously, we are a democracy, we have all kinds of voices today, and people watching will be wondering, okay, how do I know that these comments that I'm seeing right now, are they unbiased, are they fair, are they in the interest of investors? Because we live in that kind of a world, Madhu, where everything is so polarized. I want to ask you very, very clearly that as per the allegations, and you said you spent all weekend reading what Hindenburg has said, what Madhvi Puri Butch and Dhaval Butch have said, what SEBI has said, what Amphi has said, what Blackstone has said, what 361 WAM has said. Is there an iota of concern which needs to be investigated at this point in your mind? Something that we need to check out to be above board?
I will be very clear, very vocal. I will not mince any word. To my mind, and I've been in the market for more than 33 years, right? To my mind, it is crystal clear, and there is nothing which has, you investigate when you are in doubt. I can't understand where is the doubt. And what do we need to investigate? If you are a private individual, and if you invested money in a fund, right, when you are a private individual and you redeemed the fund as soon as the basis on which you made the investment came out, so what is there to investigate? I think that the real serious issue would have been if the fund had invested, if the money was invested at that point of time, and the money directly would have been invested in the group stocks, and they were continuing even till now. Then one can understand there could be some link. But whatsoever, I think the fund was redeemed in 2018. It was invested in 2015, and that fund had nothing to do with the Adani group of companies. They did not invest in Adani group stocks, neither they invested in Adani group bonds. So that is point number one. The other allegation which they made is Mr. Dhaval is working with Blackstone. Now he has a clear expertise in the supply chain and logistics area, and as a professional, if he is working for a professional company, what is wrong in that? And where is the link between the two? He has nothing to do with the real estate business of Blackstone.
That's true. And when REITs have been such a fantastic instrument. Sorry, please continue.
She is running some
Please continue.
Yeah, the third allegation is that she is running, the chairperson is running some private company and she is doing consulting. Again, she has made it very, very clear that as soon as she got into SEBI, she has relinquished all of that, and those companies have become dormant companies. And if she was not in SEBI, what is wrong in giving consultancy to someone else? So to me, Neeraj, it looks completely malicious, and it looks like an attack on the country rather than an individual. To question the basic credibility of a regulator in a country like India, wherein the regulator has done and demonstrated such a fantastic job, and she has demonstrated such a phenomenal career over the last 30 years. I think it looks, as I once again repeat, it looks larger than what we all of us can see, and it is part of some real conspiracy. And it looks like a desperate attempt to malign the image of an individual.
Okay, so that desperate attempt has clearly it's not really worked. Because look at where the markets are right now. All right, lots of news coming in thick and fast. We're focusing on results as well. The fag end of the result season and Honasa consumer in focus. On the face of it, the stock looked okay once its results came over the weekend. The stock started in the green but has been down 4% ever since then after reporting its Q1 numbers. Mahima joins us with details of what worked and what didn't. Mahima, where is the concern as far as Honasa is concerned?
Absolutely, Tamanna. So, in terms of the number, revenue and EBITDA was a miss in terms of estimates, as per Bloomberg estimates, and PAT and margins were slightly a beat. In terms of how the numbers were, well, revenue was up around 19%, EBITDA was up around 57%, margins have improved from 6.3 to 8.3% mark, and net profit was up around 62%. But something like volume growth was up around 25%. However, the gross margins overall dipped by around 90 basis points. New products have contributed 9% this quarter, which was around 18% in FY24. And finance costs have gone up by 3x, and overall advertisement expense also increased by 23%. And lastly, this quarter was also affected by revamping of their offline distribution, which has kind of impacted the margins and the net profit by a bit. So this is the overall view of what's not working for Honasa, and which is why the stock is down.
Okay, Mahima, thank you so much for joining us and taking us through what could have potentially weighed down on Honasa. But we also want to address what's happening in the oil and gas sector. And in the latest, from what we understand, is that at the moment, the government has sent out a notification that the allocation of the gas produced from new wells and or well interventions nominated to fields from ONGC in Oil India could be priced at a 20% premium to the administered price mechanism. Now, for those who may not be aware of what APM or administered price mechanism is, it is a government policy that involves directly controlling prices of certain commodities. And in this case, of course, it will be crude and oil. And it is to prevent hoarding, maintain reasonable prices for essential goods, and ensure easy availability. The conjecture, and this is only, conjecture out here, but I reckon that this is most likely in order to get new fields operational. And once you have your new wells come through, they will have the advantage of a higher pricing, and hence that could potentially lead to much more in terms of advantages with respect to the investments that have gone into the exploration and eventually the finding out of these new wells. So I reckon that this is most probably something to do with that. Of course, it's going to be a positive for Oil India and ONGC. And let's not forget that both these companies have been trading near their life highs. It just puts a little bit more impetus when it comes to the pricing. Of course, Oil India today has made a new life high as we speak and continues to make that high at the moment, Tamanna.
Yeah, both Oil India and ONGC showing that spike. Big news for them that the new pricing will be 20% over APM. Remember, APM is a old system that we've had in the country for a while to keep a tab on prices. Also news coming in that there is some push from the oil ministry to ease up on windfall taxes. If that comes through, then that's another big plus. But, while we wait for all of those details, this part is clear. Vijay Chopra, how do you see ONGC and Oil India right now?
I think that they are both well placed, and this news definitely is propelling the price up. ONGC has silently moved up. I think that these companies, Oil India, ONGC, have deep value. So I won't be surprised even, if I see ONGC inching up to 500 or Oil India inching up to maybe a 700, 750. So these companies have huge businesses, almost debt-free companies, Government of India backing. And if this positive news, actually 20% is a huge markup. So I would say that this is going to propel the stock prices further. And I also think that there are several companies in the entire value chain. I mentioned Chennai Petro. Another company I want to mention is MRPL, which I like. So MRPL, which is trading at around 207, 208, can definitely inch up to 240, 250. And you're also talking about bringing down the taxes, the windfall taxes. So this is also going to help the oil and gas sector on the whole. So these two companies look good. Chennai Petro, as I mentioned earlier, and MRPL, both are great companies to latch on to right now.
Okay, well, let's pull up the 6-month chart or maybe the 1-year chart for both Oil India and ONGC. As I've already mentioned that both of them are currently trading at life highs, but we've seen some staggering moves as far as the price action is concerned for both these companies. In fact, ONGC, being a large cap, has clearly outperformed the markets, doubled its price in this period, and it's the same for Oil India as well. In fact, we're looking at a good advance of around 70% in the last 6 months as well. Heyman, is there more legs to this rally, technically speaking, considering they are already trading at significantly high levels? What's the way forward, and would you initiate fresh longs at this moment?
Agam, Oil India is looking good, but I think ONGC, I feel technically looks better, Agam, because like you said, they've run up and run up beautifully well. But yes, I think ONGC is the one I would pick, but I wouldn't buy everything at one go. I would sort of stagger the purchases. We're currently at 341 now, Agam. I see it going to 500, but this would probably be a 18-month sort of a call. So I would say a buy on decline on every decline because the setup still remains promising. Can I digress just a little bit? IOC looks like a screaming buy at this point in time. I know we spoke about oil and ONGC, but IOC looks great.
Screaming buy. Quite a description there from Heyman Kapadia on IOC. And IOC also 3.5% up. So this entire space getting exciting. We'll take a very quick break, but we're coming right back. We put the spotlight on Ola Electric, get you the top BTST ideas and much more. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. This is India Market Close. We were expecting a lot of volatility that hasn't come through, and in fact we are looking at resilience in Indian markets at this afternoon. Now, the Nifty 50 has turned into the green, which means that consolidation continues. And along with that, very little change in open interest. In fact, less than 1% increase there. So that usually indicates that there could be tepid moves up ahead over the course of the next few days. It's a wait and watch on that one. But as far as the Bank Nifty is concerned, again, marginally in the green, up by 0.2 of a percentage point and very little change in open interest. Tomorrow we move into the Fin Nifty weekly options expiry. So a lot of the constituents of the Bank Nifty will also be in focus on account of the Fin Nifty weekly options expiry tomorrow. Let's talk about options market then. And as far as the Nifty is concerned, we continue to see base building around now 24,200 and 24,100 thereabouts. Sure, we have a good amount of open interest around the 24,000 puts mark as well. And on the higher end, I reckon that 24,500 will now will come back into focus, and that is where we have enough amount of accumulation in open interest when it comes to those respective calls. What about stocks? And let's see how things are faring there. And again, a lot of traction on account of earnings here. Volta's up around 11%. So a lot of buying coming in. Sun TV, on the other hand, one of the biggest losers when it comes to the Nifty 500, and a lot of selling coming through there as well. Astral also under pressure at the moment. Remember, it was a mixed quarter for Astral, and I reckon there's a follow-on selling coming through for this particular counter too. Among stocks which are seeing unwinding, we have about a short covering for Siemens, Granules India, Dr. Lal Path Labs, and SAIL. But as you can see, the underlying hasn't moved too much. So I reckon today is the day where we actually see sharper moves for stocks from the broader market, mostly on account of earnings.
So it's a very earnings-specific kind of day. Nifty giving up some of its gains right now, as is the Bank Nifty as well, just in the last 20 minutes odd of trade that has left. Let's quickly go through some of the buzzers today and what we can do. Vijay, I've been wanting to ask you about your take on Ola Electric. Now, the IPO, when it was on, even on the day of listing, the buzz wasn't very positive, to be honest. But in the last two trading sessions, that stock is up 40%. If you want to buy, there's no opportunity to buy. Maybe you'll get a chance now tomorrow morning. What is your take on the company?
Well, I think that the way Bhavish Agarwal has shaped up two wonderful companies, one was the Ola Taxi Cab business, which was an asset-light business. And the other one, the Ola Electric, they have made a mega factory in Bangalore. They have plans to come up with the bike, and he was mentioning in one of the interviews I saw that on 15th of August, they're going to share the prototype of the bike. And I'm sure that, in the times to come, they would also work on the, on the cars, the EVs. So I think that overall, the expectation from Ola Electric is humongous. That's the reason why we are seeing an uptick of 40% in 2 days. Maybe it can go another 10-20%, but I think that no need to jump and buy at these levels because I'm a very conservative investor in that sense. I would look for profits before buying into any such stock. I've said this about Paytm. I've said this about Honasa and several other companies. So I think that it's a great company. The way it has come up in the last 4-5 years, they've done a fantabulous work, and their product pipeline is good. Let's see some profits on the books. And I'm sure that with the sales increasing, it is the largest player in the two-wheeler EV market. And I'm sure that they're going to capture newer international markets as well. So no need to buy, jump and buy. It might go further, tomorrow. But again, I would wait for the stock to correct one. Secondly, for profits to happen on the books.
Nothing on the charts really to ask him in as far as Ola is concerned. Not enough data there. But, we've done a sort of a breakdown on what is working for Ola and what isn't, even as it hits the upper circuit for the second consecutive trading day. Valuation, remember, was a concern. Path to profitability was the concern and is the concern, Puneet. But what is then working for Ola?
Well, definitely, like market cap crossing the $5.7 billion mark, which is higher than its previous valuation when it was a private company, is also one of the positives. But certain positives over the companies, of course, is EV market share leadership. Now, it has roughly 35% market share in the EV two-wheeler space, and that's set to either maintain or go up from these levels as well. Also, the current EV penetration for Ola, EV penetration in India is roughly just around 5.4%. Now, despite doubling in the last 2 years, brokerages such as HDFC Securities see this to go up to almost 40 to 41% by FY28, and Ola Electric will certainly be one of the biggest beneficiaries of this. One other thing that the company has corrected in this particular company of Bhavesh Aggarwal is, of course, managing talent. Now, the current Giga factory head is, of course, Mr. Yoon Sung Park, who's a industry battery veteran. He worked for LG Electronics for 36 years across battery making operations, and now he's the current CEO of Ola Cell Technologies. Now, he's currently the head of the Giga factory, which is expected to commercialize the second phase by February of 2025. And going forward, we know that batteries cost roughly around 35% of the total cost of the vehicles, and making those cells itself cost around 85%. So expertise into this particular company, as well as the bigger plans that the company has for battery cell technologies, will be key here. The other thing is the company is in-house R&D and tech. They have 3 tech centers across India, US, as well as the UK. And what's interesting is that 86% of the components that they use across the 3 models of Ola S1 Pro as well as the Air is same. So basically, they've made a platform and are making new vehicles on it. This also is a strategy followed by the likes of TVS as well as Royal Enfield in the bike segment. So it helps to have launches in a much quicker way than possible. And of course, the company has 2 PLI benefits. It has the automotive PLI, which the company gets for manufacturing a certain number of vehicles, as well as the cell technology PLI, which has benefits for 5 years, even post this commissioning. So these factors definitely are a big positive for the company. We've seen that the IPO had, came at issue price of just about a couple of percentage points of premium. But since then, I think definitely the market has taken positive of these particular factors. And finally, the EV bike launches is coming on the 15th of August. A very niche segment, but a very interesting space to see what Ola can disrupt in this particular segment. Back to you.
Okay, thank you for that. Ola Electric being tracked closely by Puneet. All right, the other big story today, and the impact on listed stocks may be restricted to say TechM, but Bharti Enterprises is definitely a huge story today. The company in the latest has now signed a deal to buy 24.5% share in UK's British Telecom Group from Altus UK. My colleague Rishabh Bhatnagar has all the details.
Right, we have a landmark deal coming out of the telecom and internet industry right here in India. The Bharti Group has agreed to purchase about 24.5% in UK's largest telecom firm, which is the BT Group. Now the deal is worth about $4 billion, so a massive deal, and it is spanning across ministries right here in Delhi. The telecom ministry is definitely involved in this. The I&B ministry would also be, the MeitY would also be, given that the BT Group is a large player in laying down the 5G lines and optic fiber cables for higher definition of transmission. It's also a major deal given the India-UK FTA, which is still in progress, and the broadening commerce ties between the two countries. We're also seeing that the UK and the BT, which is the UK's largest telecom firm, has had about a 21% stake in Bharti Airtel from 1997 to 2001. So it is an interesting deal in that sense, given the nature of these two companies as well. We're also seeing that Bharti will be the largest stakeholder in this British company now. So a very interesting deal, and we'll be looking forward to comments from ministries as well.
Yeah, and basically an Indian telecom company now owns this massive stake in British Telecom, so that is pretty cool as well. But, Agam, you were talking about what this means. Obviously, it's for Bharti Enterprises, not for listed entity Bharti Airtel. But in terms of their business strategy, quite an interesting move.
It's an interesting one because, Tamanna, one is that they are moving into a market which they know that is saturated. So I don't know the kind of growth prospects that can actually throw up. But we must remember that India is one of those countries which has the lowest average revenues per user.
Yeah.
And, European countries tend to have higher averages. So this or in fact, let's cut into Sunil Bharti Mittal on this very deal. Well, let's see what he has to say.
Sure. Well, thank you, everyone, and thanks for the questions. I think just echoing some of the statements, I have been personally tracking BT for over 5 years. And if you look at the evolution of the company over the last 5 years, share price has been range bound between £1 and £2 for the last many years. But it's been a rare opportunity to buy a stake of this size, as our chairman mentioned. BT is exciting for a couple of reasons. I think it has a perfect combination of a stable cash flow profile from its consumer business, EE, BT business, and growth coming through Openreach. And our expectation is that there's enough clarity that the management is delivering. There's clarity on vision, clarity on execution, and it felt like the right time to enter as an investor in BT. And our belief is the coming years we'll see a significant expansion of the cash flow profile. And the timing was rightly suited for us as the international arm to take this investment.
And what about the Deutsche Telekom stake, Mr. Mittal? Would you be interested in picking that up?
No, right now, it's a public market. You can even go in the market and buy it, but we have no intention of moving beyond this. As I said, we need to understand, take full appreciation of what we have done here, see the stock appreciating in coming days and years ahead. So right now, there is no plan to buy any more stake. In fact, we have made a statement that we have no intention at the moment under takeover rule 22.8 to make any move beyond what we've already done.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Thomas. Maybe please
Go.
Maybe please have Venkatachari from ANS. Mint would be next. Mr. Venkatachari, are you there?
We can come back to that.
We can come back. We could perhaps have Mint next, and after Mint, we'll have PTI.
So, all right, that's an important statement from Sunil Bharti Mittal saying we have no plan of going beyond a 24.5% stake buy in British Telecom. But before that, Agam making the point that you are entering a market with better, average revenue per user. Very important metric, which is just in the doldrums in India. They're just pretty much
I was
trying
actually
to
looking
push
at
up.
those. I was just trying to look at those ARPU numbers. India has about $2, $3 max. And when it comes to something like the UK, it comes to around 15 pounds, 16 pounds. So you take about 300 rupees and compare it to maybe 1700 rupees and 1800 rupees. So that's a significantly high number out there.
All right. So that could be an interesting move business-wise also and prestige-wise as well. Big one as well. All right. Time for BTST calls. We're pretty much wrapping up this afternoon. And I would say it's been a day of a bit of a cautious trade, but definitely no big earthquakes. Anyone attempting an earthquake in this market today will be sorely disappointed. Himen, what is the kind of BTST calls you would say? How do you feel about, let's make it specific, a Hero Moto and an Axis?
I think Axis is looking good, Tamanna. An upward bar reversal coming in today. Is there the requisite volume? Volume is higher than yesterday's volume. Not enough, but good enough. So BTST on Axis, we're at around 1165. So 1165, 10 rupee stop loss, 20 rupee target. 1165, 1155, 1185 Tamanna, BTST.
Okay. So, well, that's the BTST calls coming in from Hemen. Vijay, going into the next quarter, opportunities that you find besides the PSUs that you've already taken name of, anything in the private sector that stands out? Vijay, if you can unmute yourself, please.
Apologies. I think that DLF, which is the largest player in the real estate space, this company can do really well. And if at all somebody holds with a longer term perspective, I see it crossing even 1,000. Another company I like is Radico Khaitan. It's one of the major players in the liquor space. And I think that this stock also trading at around 1,660 odd can go up to 1,800, 1,850. Apart from that, as now we are crossing monsoon and getting into the almost winter season, So United Spirits and UP also looks very good. Apart from Radico Khaitan. So I'm fairly bullish on United Spirits, DLF, Radico Khaitan, and another company which is looking very good on the technical charts is Sterlite Tech. Although we don't see much happening on the balance sheet, but I think that there is something tremendously good happening with the entire Vedanta group. So Sterlite Tech looks very good on the charts, technical charts, which probably suggests that there might be something very good in store, and a lot of positive things are happening in Vedanta anyway. So they have also reduced some kind of the leverage which was there on the company, and they are constantly working on reducing the leverage. So Sterlite Tech for a target of 180, I would recommend.
Vijay, how do you feel about Jubilant FoodWorks? Since you're talking about some of those discretionary spend plays, and Jubilant has had an interesting quarter, quite a turnaround actually, a decent quarter. Stock is also up. Maybe their strategy of going it on their own and off platforms has helped. They've waived off delivery fees, which has hit their margins slightly, but otherwise the quarter has been good. Do you like Jubilant Food?
Well, Tamanna, the consolidation has been for almost 3-4 years now, and I think that today it has crossed a 3-year-old level. Potential, humongous, brand name, fantastic, and their presence also is, the distribution network is also very good. Good chances that, if the company keeps on, showing good results, top line and bottom line, it might go up to maybe 800, 850 again. So let's wait for it to correct a bit to re-enter. People who are holding, keep on holding, don't sell.
Don't sell, but wait for it to correct to re-enter. How do you feel about Jubilant, Himen?
Yeah, we've had a run-up of 420 to 660. And we're walking into a virtual roadblock over here. So I would say it is ripe for a correction, but currently no. So I would wait on the sideline, because after this move, it will probably walk into a 3-month corrective phase. So I would say wait. Maybe there's upside, but it's not a buy at current levels. Tamanna.
Okay. Himen, how are you reading into trade when it comes to names like ABB India and Siemens? Of course, about 4 to 5 weeks ago, they were clearly stocks of the year because they were touching life highs, and it seemed like nothing could stop them from moving above. But over the course of the last few weeks, we've also seen a little bit of temperance, and since then, a bit of consolidation. Levels that one may need to keep an eye on, perhaps towards the long or the short side when it comes to ABB India or Siemens. Himen?
Agam, ABB, Larsen, Siemens. All corrective, all run up, long-term uptrends in place, intermediate corrections. Coming back to ABB and levels, 7,000 is rock solid. Currently, it's no man's land. It's not a short, it's not a long. Closer to 7,000, at least 7,200, one can take a contra long call, stop loss of 7,000. So I think it could take some more time to correct. And as far as Siemens is concerned, it's a similar view, but Siemens looks just a shade better. But yes, once again, intermediate correction. Level to watch out, these are cash market levels, 6567. I think that is important. If that support breaks, maybe we'd see a deeper correction. But ABB closer to 7,000, 7,200 would have better conviction to take a contra buy call at that point in time.
Okay, thank you so much, Himen. Thank you, Vijay, for joining us today on this Monday afternoon as we wind down to markets close. So let's look at how we're finally closing. Just a minute and a half actually to go for a close on what was going to be an astonishingly tough day in the Indian markets. That's not really happened. You will probably close in the red, but barely so. I would say completely flat. Just 20 odd points down on the Nifty as we wind down. The Bank Nifty has been one of the better performers. Let's pull up the sectoral indices just for a bit before we get a clearer picture of what that day has looked like. Realty stocks have been doing relatively okay. The Nifty Realty up about 1% or so. Consumer durables, metals are on the side of green. What has dragged down towards close. The losses in the PSU Bank Index have actually deepened. FMCG stocks, energy, all looking a little weak. Let's look at where the advanced decline ratios are before I get Agam also in. And that gap has narrowed a little. So you have declines overtaking advances on the broader market side. Agam, I was just keen to see, and of course we'll pull up the heat map first, but what's happening on the end of the broader markets. Let's first see the heat map and really take a look at what has the day been like. Hero Moto, ahead of its numbers, has been just fantastic today. Yeah. ONGC, that's big news, and we'll have more detailed breakdown tomorrow on the morning show as well. But ONGC, Oil India, have got a big boost from a government notification which says that new wells will give them 20% more than the alternate price mechanism. So that's important. All right, that's the closing rate. Completely flat is where you are closing down. A bit of pressure there in your consumption. So your Nestle, Britannia, etc. Two Adani stocks down in the red. Adani Port, Adani Ent, and that is really off the day's lows. So maybe some reverberations there of what we saw from Hindenburg. But overall, Agam, I would say that this is a completely flat day in the markets.
It certainly is. Tamanna, let's take a look at the broader markets too and see whether or not there's a little bit of an outperformance. There is. It's marginally so because the mid-cap index is advancing by around 0.25%. The small-cap index up around 0.4%. I want to actually take a look at the big movers, and you will realize that when it comes to the broader markets, a lot of that will be on account of, well, earnings. I'm not going to talk about RVNL, cannot consider that in the same category because its earnings came last week. They were not that great, but it does seem like buying has resumed as far as RVNL is concerned. But Voltas is reacting to earnings. Jubilant Foodworks, we've already heard as to the reasons behind the gains there as well. Star Cement is the other counter which is advancing. Sun TV, on the other hand, under pressure, as is the case for Vinati Organics and Balkrishna Industries. Bharat Dynamics again reacting to earnings. And Bharat Dynamics is one of those few defense companies which have in fact had a relatively lackluster quarter. So all in all, it's not been a bad day of trade when it comes to broader markets either. And more gainers than losers, and at least as far as broader markets are concerned, I guess traders and investors will be happy, especially given the expectations earlier in the morning.
Well, whoever is betting on shorts didn't have a very good day.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But that's all the time we have on India Market Close. From Agam, me and the entire team that put the show together, thank you so much for watching. But stay tuned. A lot more on the other side on NDTV Profit.